Another very common mistake that students make when doing a scoping review is assuming that they need to search as many databases as possible. But do you actually need 6, 7 or 10 databases? The short answer is no. And using too many databases can actually weaken your scoping review. Stay tuned as I explain why. Hi there, I'm Dr. Kenyon Wong and I teach research at 2 UK universities and I run a business supporting postgraduate students on their dissertation and theses. One of the most confusing parts of setting up a scoping review is deciding how many databases you actually need. You often hear things like the more databases the better, or you must include at least 5. Well, none of that is actually based on the guidance. In this video, I'll walk you through what databases are for, how to decide which ones you need, and how to avoid the common mistakes of oversearching and exhausting yourself for no real profit. Before deciding how many you need, we need to first be clear about the purpose of database searching. Each database is simply a source of literature and each database has its own strengths, subject coverage, and indexing system. Using multiple databases is meant to capture the breadth of literature on your topic, reduce the risks of missing key studies, and to balance the subject-specific sources with broader ones. But here's the important part. Different databases have a lot of overlap. Searching 7 broad databases doesn't give you 7 times the coverage. It often just gives you the same paper 7 times. Your goal isn't to search everywhere. Your goal is to search in the right places for your topic. Firstly, searching too many databases doesn't make your review more rigorous. It makes it more repetitive. Most databases in education, social sciences, and health index similar journals. Adding more and more databases simply produces duplicate results without adding meaningful new literature. Secondly, using too many databases wastes time and energy. Each database has its own quirks, different search operators, different filters, different export settings, and this creates unnecessary workload. For most students, the marginal benefit of the 5th database is essentially 0, but the time cost is very real. Thirdly, using too many can actually confuse your review. If your database choice don't align with your topic, it signals to examiners that you don't understand the disciplinary landscape. I've seen students include engineering on economic databases purely because they felt pressured to include more, and it raises questions about the logic of the search strategy. Finally, adding irrelevant or redundant databases can dilute the clarity of your research methods section. A clean, justified search strategy is far more important than an inflated list of sources. So how many databases do you actually need? For most student-conducted scoping review, I would usually recommend around 3 databases would be enough. So this is a simple framework to guide your decision. Pick one subject-specific database. Choose the one that is most aligned with your field. For example, in education, we would use ERIC. For health, we would use CINAHL, Medline, or PubMed. For psychology, we might use PsycInfo. Then choose one broader database, and this usually helps capture the interdisciplinary material. For example, Scopus or Web of Science, they usually cover a broad range of topics already on their own. And then finally, you will want to pick a database to cover the secondary interests of your study. For example, if you're researching something related to medical education, you might have already picked PubMed and Scopus, and then ERIC might work well as an educational database for you as well. Anything beyond this adds very little value. Additionally, don't forget that you are very likely to be including other grey literature as well. So you do have other sources of literature to consider. Remember, your justification matters more than the number of databases. If your choices make sense for your topic, your examiners are very unlikely to be expecting a long list of databases. So to wrap up, most scoping reviews don't need a long list of databases, and using too many usually adds work without adding proper value. Focus on selecting the right databases, justify your choices clearly, and you will produce a stronger and more targeted review. If you're watching this, you'll probably find my previous video on what analysis you should use really helpful too. Additionally, you might be at the point of developing a scoping review proposal. If that is so, I have an online course that teaches you how to diagnose alignment problems in your study design using an Excel spreadsheet that I have developed based on my work and my supervision with my students. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye!